Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm excited about networking with everybody out there. We're live on Facebook, so hi to everybody out there as well. My first guest has been on with me for well over 4.5 years. She's also been my sponsor, and I thank her for being here always. I have with me Anna Von Straussenburg. She's the owner of Anna Von Straussenburg, CPA. Welcome back to the show. I have to start off with always, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, hi, Carol. I'm glad to be back. I'm a CPA. I'm actually registered or certified in California, Arizona, and New York because I started off in California. And I kind of call myself a backdoor CPA because I had a degree that was suited for teaching, not for accounting, and I went back to school while I was working for an accounting firm and got my courses in that I needed to take the CPA exam. So, and I had set myself a goal to become a CPA by the time I was 40, and I did it. Got it. Submitted the paperwork on my 40th birthday, so it was close enough.
Well, I gotta say a couple of things about you, if it's okay with you. First of all, Anna is all about not just doing your taxes, she's about teaching you and helping you understand your numbers, and she's got a sharp pencil. She's very good at that, and she's very thorough. She's also all about excellence and integrity in accounting. Tell them what you mean by that.
Well, I mean that I stand by my work. If I make a mistake and it causes you a penalty, I will pay that penalty. And so that encourages me to be even more excellent. And of course, mistakes do happen. I have staff that work with me, and we're all human beings. So, and the other thing is I just cannot tell a lie to save my life, and I will always do what is ethically correct. And it's not always an easy thing, but I had good mentors in my life, and one of them said to me one time, he said, you work too hard to become a CPA, to risk it on a client who wants you to do something unethical. And I witnessed him firsthand asking a client to leave when we were asked to do something that was unethical. So he meant what he said.
And you are all about that. Let me give you her information. Her phone number to call, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She does second opinions. She works nationwide. And you can check her out on her website. It's ArizonaCPAs.com. So Anna, today you started to want to talk a little bit about, the extensions that are on file.
Yeah, well, it's time for people to get their business and their individual returns, their data in, so we can get the returns done before the deadline. And it's for businesses, which is S corporations and partnerships, that deadline is September 15th. Trusts have until September 30th, and individuals have until October 15th. And it sounds like a long ways off, but the time flies.
Look at how fast it's flying.
And also you want to be careful, get it done as soon as possible, because remember that even if you filed an extension, it's an extension to file your tax returns, not an extension to pay. So you want to avoid or reduce any potential penalties. Hopefully you've paid enough in, but if you haven't, getting it done sooner than later is better.
The other thing is it's hot out. What a great time, because now this is the time that we're kind of hunkering inside. Maybe you should check out what you've got going there and make sure that you've got all your paperwork and send it in to a reputable CPA, and that's Anna. Her phone number again is 480-964-4030. That's area code 480-964-4030. What are some of the things that people, by now they have everything really that they should have. Basically it's about when you work with people that are new people that have also got extensions that just they're hearing you now and they're going, she sounds terrific, I want to call her.
Okay, well, it's important to, of course you get your W-2s, your brokerage statements, your brokerage 1099s, if you sold any stock, your retirement reporting forms, and depending on where your age and whether you're married filing joint or married filing separate or single, you may be able to itemize, so it's a good idea to gather up those expenses, because sometimes even if you can't itemize for federal, you may be able to itemize for state. So you wanna gather up your medical expenses and your charitable contributions. And also Arizona has some special charitable tax credits, so if you've donated to anything like the United Food Bank or school tuition organization, those, you can make donations to those up till April 15th. If you didn't for 2024, it's too late now,
Yeah.
but something to consider, and make sure that if you did, that I or your CPA gets those documents.
So a couple of things that I wanna talk about too, perfect for right here, is that, you like complicated returns as well. She actually excels in the complicated ones. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, I've had good fortune to have clients that are in many different states, and I've done many multi-state returns, so I'm very good with the multi-state returns. And some of the more complicated things, like clients that have things like restricted stock units that they get, let's say if they work for a bigger company, let's say like Waste Management or Wells Fargo or eBay, they often give out incentive stock options, and there's special reporting rules for that. And some gotchas, if you don't track your basis correctly, and you go by what the brokerage statement says, or the 1099, you may actually end up paying too much tax, so it's helpful for somebody who knows the ins and outs of that.
And that she does. Her phone number again, it's 480-964-4030. That's area code 480-964-4030. You can check her out on her website. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. She does second opinions. She's rated with the Better Business Bureaus, and she does free consultations. Perfect for right now too. A lot of people try and do their taxes on their own, and I'm sorry, if you own a business, you probably shouldn't be doing that. How many times when people have done it on their own and you've checked it out for them, have you found mistakes where they could have gotten more money back?
Well, I have found mistakes 100% of the time. I have to say there was one time when a client came to me and they had done their own return, and there were numerous mistakes. Unfortunately, the IRS had already gotten in touch with them and said that they had underreported their income. So I didn't save her money. I did give her some advice that might have saved her some money, but she wasn't willing to find the information. But, you know, you can, it's that old saying, you can lead a horse to water.
Right.
But, so I gave her the information, hey, if you find out more about your husband's incentive stock options, we can reduce the taxes. And she said, well, we owe so much at this point, I don't care.
Wow. Well, she didn't care. She got money.
Yeah.
Well, most people are not like that. What are your final words here? Because we're going to go to a break.
Well, my final words is, like in this heat, like Carol said, it's a good time to gather up your documents, and maybe a good time to sort through and figure out what you need to keep and what you need to get rid of.
Get ready, because it's around the corner.
Yep.
The due date is September 15th, did you say?
For S corporations and partnerships, and for individuals, October 15th.
She does free consultations. She works nationwide. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau, and she's fabulous to work with, because not only is she going to help you do your returns, but she's going to teach you to understand your numbers, because understanding your numbers will grow your business. Again, her phone number to call, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Check her out on her website. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. Now, during the 30, this is different because we are still live in this room. So we're going to keep on talking right now. We're not live on the air, but we're live on Facebook. So that went really well.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I know that we're going to be talking about the married and filing. A lot of people are in the midst of getting a divorce, or they're separated. When do they? I mean, is there a time where, okay, they're legally married, so they're still always going to do that joint up until, or can they, let's say they just want out, they want to separate?
They can do married filing separate, and if they've been living apart for more than 6 months, and they have children, one spouse can be treated as a head of household. So there's different ways, and sometimes if they've been separated, have a legal separation, they can be treated as single. So, but they must be married separately and be legally separated, so.
Or legally, and a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't even realize that that's a really good idea to do,
yeah.
because they don't wanna pay the money,
Yeah,
probably.
but it's important to do. Luckily, where I came from in California, when we do a divorce, they make you do a legal separation and wait 6 months, so.
Oh, they do, I think they might have changed as a lot of times I
Yeah.
think they make you go through some kind of counseling as well now too.
Yeah. But, some marriages just can't be saved.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Anyway,
I know.
so you wanna do what you can do to protect yourself in that situation.
Right, and here's the thing, then I have something to talk about too sometime. I mean, I remember my ex kept on saying to me, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of you, don't worry. I should have worried,
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because, it really went in his favor in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know, don't we
That's
say that
true.
quite a
Yeah,
lot on this show?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I had a client that, she found out the hard way. Her husband had a heart attack while they were at the grocery store. When he passed away, she found kept getting all these IRS notices and had no idea that he'd been lying to her for years. And we didn't know she didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why, to be honest with you, that's really why women shouldn't take the approach of, I just let my husband do it. They
Oh, yeah.
should be involved, they
Yes,
should be involved.
absolutely.
And some of them maybe now are changing,
Yeah.
but a lot of them still don't. Some people, I don't know, women are still afraid. Here we go. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Anna Von Straussenburg. She's the owner of Anna Von Straussenberg, CPA. And at the break, we talked to Facebook land, so I like to get a little bit more out there and to, kind of learn more from my clients. And today, right now, we were going to talk a little bit about people who are divorced and how to file. There's different ways of that too. So let's talk a little bit about filing separately or jointly. Is that the right way to say that? Jointly?
Yes,
I didn't know if that was a word.
Married, filing, joint, but well, first of all, I'd like to say a disclaimer, because this gets a little bit into the legal area. I am not an attorney, so I cannot give legal advice. But that said, I can give tax advice, and married filing joint is the most common way for married couples to file, because that's the most economical way for them to file. If you're legally married, you only have two choices: married filing joint or married filing separate. And in most cases, married filing separate is not advantageous, especially if you live in a community property state like Arizona, because in Arizona, if you choose to file married filing separate, the law is that you must split your income 50-50. So half of his wages go on your return and half of your wages go on his return, and all the deductions, unless they're specifically, can be allocated to the other spouse, but it's mostly 50-50, so there's very little advantage to filing separate, except in the case of a divorce. You may want to file married filing separate as a way to protect yourself from what your spouse may or may have not done. So, and there are other cases where I had a client that came from a non-community property state, and in the non-community property state, the husband can file his information and the wife can file her information, and they don't ever have to talk about it. I had a client that moved from Massachusetts and had always kept her finances separate from her husband because she realized that he was a disaster filing his taxes, and he was always
From day
late.
one.
From day one, so she decided that they would keep. Well, she moved here, And I got some advice from other CPAs that said, tell her to find, she is an attorney, but she's not licensed here. Tell her to find an attorney licensed in Arizona to write up a post-nuptial agreement that, you know, basically states that they're going to keep their finances separate and that they will report married filings separately with their own income. Because in order to avoid, you know, being chased by the IRS, you wanna have that documented. So that was very important advice that have given her, and hopefully she's gone and done it,
Right.
so.
Well, you know, we were talking also before that a lot of people, when they get separated, they don't do it legally, right?
Mhm.
And can I just tell the story really quickly
Sure.
about mine? Well, because my husband kept on saying, oh, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. And I said to you earlier, I said I should have worried because it really wasn't in my favor. And having a consultation with a CPA is so important, especially when you're gonna get a divorce. I mean, it's not just the attorney. There's other things that have to be spoken about.
Yes, and it's very important, you know, and, you know, there are ways you can get it. There's a thing called an innocent spouse claim. So if your spouse has been lying to you and cheating on the tax return, if you can prove that you didn't know, you can get relief from it. And a lot of times that happens in a divorce situation. You know, people get divorced, then find out that the IRS is going after them for cheating on their taxes. And I had one poor client whose husband was always filing late. We really had no idea that she wasn't aware of it. We were always doing the returns, and then he had a sudden heart attack, passed away. And then she was getting the notices and called us and said, well, what do I do? And
What do they do in that situation?
Well, what we did is we caught up all the tax returns, and I actually filed the innocent spouse claim, and in her case, she said, I will pay the taxes, I just want to not pay the penalties. And they did give her substantial relief on the penalties. And both state
See, sometimes they're not as brutal as I always say
no,
they are.
No, and I got lucky in two cases. She had an agent from New York, she was in New York, and the agent that was taking the call, she goes, oh, the same thing happened to me. And then another agent with IRS, yeah, that same thing happened to a close family member. Like, what are the chances that these agents had it happen to them or somebody they were really close to? And they said, well, let me see what I can do about waiving these penalties. And she saved well over $2,000 in penalties.
That's awesome,
so.
that's awesome. Hey, that's another thing I wanna say about you too, is that there's a lot of people that don't do their taxes. They put their heads in the sand, and business or personal or both or what have you, because, you know, they owe money. And you don't have to run. You got people like Anna who can actually speak for you.
Yes, and I've helped people catch up their taxes, and I'm really good at talking to the IRS. I, you know, do what I can do to get them over on my side, and, you know, try to, you know, I just have a good way of talking to them. I'm really nice to them and say, hey, well, what can we do to help this taxpayer?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I get them invested in the conversation, so.
Yeah, and Anna's such a nice person. Every single person that she works with, they become like a family member to you.
Oh, absolutely. They're family members. Sometimes I put my counselor hat on because, you know, when they're talking about their finances, sometimes the things that led up to the financial problems come out, and so I listen to people about their,
Stories.
their stories and what has happened, and sometimes they're difficult times, and I really sympathize with them, and my heart breaks sometimes for my clients because they're going through some rough patches, but I'm there to, you know, help them through it with their taxes and kind of hold their hand a little bit.
Right.
So.
And the other thing is she asks a lot of questions, and when you ask a lot of questions, you get to think, you know, you think these are personal things, but sometimes something comes out that's good for you, because you might have not realized that they had a child that was born this year, or what have you.
Yeah, I've had clients that have forgotten to tell me that information, they just assumed I knew. you know, or they told me like, oh, we're going to have a child one year, and then they like never tell me the next year that they've actually had the child and what the child's name is and whether it's a boy or girl and all that good stuff. So, you know, sometimes just saying, hey, how's the family, you know, will prompt them to remember those things.
Right.
And so I always, you know, and I'm always just interested in it, and it shocks me how fast the kids grow up, and, you know, oh, your son or daughter's in college, well, give me their tuition statements, because we can maybe get a deduction for that. So, you know, the what seemingly is just a kind of off-the-cuff conversation actually has, you know, greater meaning behind it.
Absolutely. Her phone number to call, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultation. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She does second opinions. She can help you if you need help with people that might owe money back taxes to the IRS. Also, she works nationwide. What are your final words for today? You can make it a little longer. We got a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the things I like to do is also with my business clients, I like to look at their books a couple times a year. And it's nice to look at them before the end of the year, like let's say in November, and get a projection of where they're gonna be, and so I can give them some advice to maybe, you know, fund their retirement plan, save some money. Maybe they need to buy some new assets because they're gonna owe a lot in taxes and they've got the cash. So, that's one important thing I like to do to really help my business clients get going, is by looking at their books multiple times a year.
Well, she's wonderful. She not only is she all about excellence and integrity in accounting, she's all about getting to know you, and you become her friend the minute you meet her. And she will help you whether you are in business right now, you want to get those business tax returns. They all are due by September 15th. And she said, you might be, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay. So make sure that you got the money to pay as well. Again, that number to call her direct, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She works nationwide. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She does free consultation. She does second opinions. She's all about excellence and integrity in accounting. You can call her direct at 480-964-4030 or 480, that's again 964-4030. It's a summertime. Let's get those things taken care of and get all the paperwork together and make sure that you get it in on time. Again, her phone number is 480-964-4030. Check her out on her website. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com.